Good morning and welcome to Press Pass Live, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We are excited to have you. This is the weekly podcast show for the OMFL, and man, we have quite a show. It's been a little bit since we've been able to be with you. I am your host, the Commissioner Nate, and then I have my two good buddies with me, Dwayne and Dawson. We don't have the entire crew together with us this morning, but we got most of the crew with us. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. How are y'all?
All good this morning, Nate.
Awesome. Things are good, man. I was on this long trip. It was good, but man, it's a long time to be away from home and family and everything else that's going on. So it feels good to be back, and I'm ready to get rolling. So let's just jump right into it, man. We got a lot of stuff that we got to cover here. Let's look back at weeks. I think it's 10 through 12 have happened since our last show. So what I'm looking from you guys is just to kind of give me a game that stuck out to you guys. Like, what game out of those 3 weeks just seemed like a game that people need to know about and need to go back and check? And I'll make sure that after Press Pass Live is over today that I get a new game of the week out. It's been really busy for me since I've been in Chicago and I was not able to get those out. So, Dwayne, give me your game that sticks out to you in those 3 weeks as a game that people should know about.
You may just give them out, or you may break them down a little bit,
Break
or
them down.
well, week 10, I went with a game that was it's kind of odd, I guess, for a game of the week per se. But to me, it was a big game in the fact that it just took one team and they just kind of mudslided ever since. Was the Lions and Packers game. This certain week, the Packers were still in the playoff race. They were kind of reeling. They had won a couple games in a row, and Priest was playing real well. And he came in here in a game that he should have won against Detroit, and he let one slip away. I mean, all the stats, per se, were in his favor. He had 174 yards. Ass backwards. Uh, the Lions had 174 yards passing and almost 200 yards rushing, while the Packers were just held completely, utterly defensively on offensive. They had 120 yards passing, um, 40 yards rushing. I just expected more out of Priest in this one, but to me, this is a huge game. DBL's playing the spoiler at this point. And he spoiled the Packers season, with this game. I think Packers have lost two in a row after this game. He came into this one with playoff aspirations, and I hate to ever say that it's over after this one, but man, it
Mm,
just went downhill since.
it's over.
And like I said, the Packers. This game was just a big game to me. Like I said, 0-0. He's just coming in. He's just trying to play spoiler at this point in the season. I respect him for not giving up and still playing his games. And he came in here and he played old 0-0 football to me. He had 156 yards rushing with McNary, 41 yards rushing with Ware. He just dominated from the score actually doesn't depict to me how bad he did dominate this game. Um, my Week 11 game, and this is one that to me is it stuck out to me just because you had a Colts team who was just dominating and had been playing so good all season, and they ran into a Jacksonville just a steel wall. Jacksonville woke up. This is the Jacksonville team we all kind of expect out of Brady when he's engaged. He could just he's just a really solid player. He came in this game and he forced two turnovers of the big thing. He had no turnovers. Colts turned the ball over twice. The Jacksonville came in with 190 yards passing, 90 yards rushing, and we all know that that's actually a subpar game for Brady rushing wise. Um, the Colts had 230 yards passing, 100 yards rushing. The big difference in this game was the Jacksonville Jaguars were 60% on third down while holding the Colts to 25% on third down. That's a huge difference, and you got to take into account that the turnover differential was in Jacksonville's favor too. It's just a recipe for success, and this is kind of what we expected out of Brady. Um,
And
he didn't have a
his quarterback went 11 for 11 too,
yeah,
which is pretty spectacular.
it's spectacular, especially just talking about Brady in general. We'll just talk about him. He never has been just a aired out kind of guy, and he didn't do that. This game, but 11 for 11, 200 yards, two touchdowns. You can't ask for a more efficient game, especially out of a team that likes to run the ball and a team that didn't necessarily run the ball real well this game. They ran it well enough to win the game. I think the Colts kind of shot themselves in the foot with this one, throwing two interceptions. Everybody knows you can't turn the ball over against Jacksonville when Brady is engaged, ready to play. Man, he's a tough guy. Robson had 105 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Jaguars. On the other side, Moncrief had 6 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Wade had 67 yards on four catches. Um, this is just a game that Kratos had 2 interceptions, a sack. He's been a long-standing name here in OMFL from last one to this one. Um, he just keeps making plays. I mean, yeah, he's paying. We all know that Jacksonville's paying him enough. He ought to be making plays at this
Yeah.
point. Um, but this is just a game that stuck out to me because this could be a tie. Colts have been really been tearing off wins, and we talked about him last podcast how well he'd been playing. And Jacksonville came in here and got a win and kept themselves in playoff contention. And I hope the league really recognizes that this is what the Jacksonville's capable of. And y'all to keep your eye out for him. My Week 12 game, I'm a little bit biased because it helped me in the playoff race. But Chargers beating the Bucks. The Bucks were a team who had been playing really, really well. In the words of Outlaw, had been one of the hottest teams, and I really couldn't argue with him because he had been one of the hottest teams in the league up until the last couple of weeks. But the Chargers really just stuck a dagger in his playoff hopes of this game. He came in. I think the Tampa Bay was a game or two back in the NFC South, and the Chargers are fighting to try to keep separation between them and Oakland. And the Chargers came in here and came away with a tough win. Anytime you play the Buccaneers, it's a tough win. The Chargers came out with 280 yards passing, 60 yards rushing. 6% on third down. They did turn the ball over 3 times, but big difference is the Tampa Bay turned over 4 times. One and more turnover. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but in a 3-point game, that's huge. Tampa Bay had almost 300 yards passing, 100 yards rushing. They were 71% on third down, which is crazy. I mean, they played really good. I watched most of this game. He had a 2-point conversion that brought it to a 3-point game, and he put himself in position to win this game. Like I said, just that last turnover just really ate him. Dakota, I don't know how to pronounce it. Blanca, is that his name?
Oh,
To be honest, I really don't know either.
hate
We'll
that
go
kid.
Let's call
Blanca.
Raleigh.
280 yards passing on 80% passing.
I hope his arm
Uh,
falls off.
2 interceptions do hurt, but I mean, he played a solid game other than those 2 interceptions. His rushing game was nothing to just be super excited about, but he did rush good enough to I guess keep him honest on Tampa Bay side. I know Tampa Bay has a killer front seven. Um, Dorsett Williams both had 90 plus yards receiving. Dorsett's been a name I think a lot of us have been waiting on him to break out. He was a big free agent pickup for the Chargers a few seasons ago, and we've really been waiting for him. And I think Dawson's passing game has really learned to kind of get him involved. You go on the other side, Webb had almost 300 yards passing, a touchdown, 2 picks. Randy Kelly and Abdullah combined for over 100 yards with 2 touchdowns, which is pretty solid. His running game was, has always been kind of questionable just because, everybody knows with Abdullah, you're going speed or nothing. He's either going to get around the corner and break it or nothing. And to get that kind of production out of those two guys is pretty solid. He had Howard, Gibson, and Evans all within the 70-yard range right there. Um, he has I mean, everybody knows Howard's a heck of a tight end. Evans is a big body. He's got a really good receiving core there. And defensively, like I said, I just talked about it off air just a few minutes ago. Is Dawson didn't give Quan Alexander any interceptions, and that's huge. Everybody knows Tampa Bay really feeds off of Quan getting turnovers and creating turnovers. Vernon Hargrave did have 2, but I can live with the computer getting interceptions against me rather than me throwing it to Quan in the middle of the field and him just making me pay for it. On the other side, and another thing that gets me is the Chargers didn't have any sacks. We know the Chargers are a team that gets in the backfield and gets some sacks, and they only had 2. They had no sacks. They did force 2 interceptions and a forced fumble, and I think that's the telling story. Like I said, 1 turnover, 3-point game. This was a huge win for the Chargers, and man, this is the gut buster for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've been playing great all season. They're playing in a really revamped, tough NFC South, and this is my game of the week for Week 12.
Dawson, what do you think about weeks 10 through 12? Did you have a couple of games that you want to talk about?
Yeah, for week 10, I had the Raiders and Steelers. It was a tough. I watched this one, as I recall. It just kept going back and forth. Each team was scoring left and right. Um, like I said, I was a little biased. I mean, the Raiders, I was trying to get ahead as far as the division lead, and this loss by the Raiders kind of helped me out a little bit. But it was also Jenny's. I think it was his first win with the Steelers. So
Mm-hmm.
that's always a good a good feeling, to get that first win, especially with a team that your team. He had a big as far as the Steelers. He relied on Bell. He just kind of pounded the ball. Le'Veon Bell had 21 rushes and 155 yards, and one touchdown. His longest rush was 39 yards, so he just kind of just pounded the ball the whole game. And on the other side, Amari Cooper, he had a big day as well. He had 218 receiving yards off 7 receptions and 2 touchdowns, with his longest reception at 60 yards. So that was his target for our Carr's target the whole game, and he kept the game in. I think Steelers. I want to say he kicked the last minute field goal, to get the win, or some in that matter. But that was a big win for Jennings. With his first time, with the Steelers. For Week 11, I picked the Chiefs and Buccaneers. That was I watched that game at work, and it was kind of weird. It was going back and forth as well. Um, once Buccaneers scored, then Chiefs did a kickoff return, and then Buccaneers scored again, and Chiefs did another kickoff return late
Crazy.
in the fourth quarter. So it was a wild game.
I hope people took
Um,
the over on that game.
yeah, yeah, it was a lot. And D'Anthony Thomas for the Chiefs, he played pretty good. He had a lot of fantasy points that week. He had one reception, 46 yards for a touchdown. I think that was off like a wheel route. But then he had the two kickoff returns. So he had a big day, and Dakota was saying with Buccaneers, it's kind of a gut punch the last couple of weeks. He's been playing pretty good, and then the last I think he's lost 3 straight now. So, maybe yeah, three or four. But um, I mean, it was a good win for Chiefs. I think he relied on the passing. Mahomes, he was 16 for 20, 295 yards for one touchdown. He did have one pick, but that 16 for 20, that completion rate was pretty big for Chiefs. Week 12, I picked the Rams and Patriots. I think they played a couple. I think that maybe had the connection issues, and they finally got it going maybe the third attempt or so, if I can recall. But I mean that was a big win for B Man. I think once you get your first win in OMFL, it's a good feeling. You get that off your chest. I actually lost in this. I had a bet in the gold sheet where the pass was at -6, so I lost that bet. But it was a good win for B Man. But it was he kind of Deshaun Watson. He played pretty good. He kind of decided the outcome. His completion rate was pretty good as well. 14 for 16, 232 passing yards with 114 quarterback rating. For the Pats, I know he's relying on his rookie quarterback. He has mediocre stats this game. 14 for 21, 166 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. But what's big about that is that he didn't throw any interceptions. So I always call that a good day when I don't throw any interceptions. But the Rams edged it off with a 2-point win.
There you go. There's some crazy stat numbers in that other game that you were talking about, the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. Just stupid. I mean, I know this is a video game, but those were like video game numbers. Those are just stupid, crazy, crazy numbers. So there's a look at your weeks 10 through 12 games. A lot of really good games, and the playoff race has gotten really interesting because of what has happened in the past 3 weeks. So what I want to do now is I want to look at that playoff race in both the AFC and the NFC. I do think because of some of these second place teams, especially in the NFC, that the wild cards are going to be pretty limited. So let's look at the wild card race. A lot of 7-4, 6-6 teams that are floating in that 6-6, 6-5, 7-4 range. I mean, you got the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets, the New England Patriots. You got the Raiders and the Chargers. The Chargers are 8-4, so they're starting to get out of that. But you got the Cleveland Browns sitting there at 6-5. You got the Colts at 7-4. The Texans at 8-4. If you hop over in the NFC, you got the Cowboys at 6-5. The Eagles at 6-5. Then of course you got the amazing division in the NFC West with the Seattle Seahawks at 10-1 and the San Francisco 49ers at 10-2, which is going to really limit what kind of team gets into those wild card races in the NFC. But then you look at the North, 6-6, 6-6 for the Bears and the Vikings. Then you got the Falcons at 8-3, the Panthers at 8-4, the Saints at 7-5, and the Bucks at 6-6. So a lot of teams are still there, hovering to be able to get one of those last wild card positions. So my question to you guys, and Dawson, I want to start with you, is who grabs that last wild card spot in both of these divisions?
Yeah, so I'll start on the AFC side. What's the most interesting division on that side is the South. I think if you like you just said, if you all the teams in that division still has a chance of making the playoffs. So there's a lot of games to be played in the next 4 weeks. But you know, Colts they kind of start off from the gun. You know, they pretty much led the division majority of the season. Lost a couple good close games. Titans, they got a huge win over the powerhouse Bengals, and the Texans. They're probably one of the hottest teams right now. Winning 8 of the last 9 games. Um, just by looking at the schedules, I want to say the Texans going to grab that division and it's going to leave the Colts on getting that last wild card spot. Which I mean, like you said, there's a lot of 6-5, 7-4 teams on the AFC, so there's a lot of games to be played, and it can change quickly as far as who grabs that last spot. But as of today, I'm gonna go with the Colts grabbing that sixth spot.
Let me give you a little follow up question. Why the Colts
Yeah.
over like the Jets, the Patriots, the Raiders, the Browns? Why the Colts?
Well, just the way they play, consistently throughout the season. The Patriots, they grabbed that. They lost, to the Rams, and I just feel like the Colts, the way they play, they got a big game this week with the Jaguars, and I think that's kind of telling. If he is able to grab this win this week, then I think he will be able to solidify at least his chances of being ahead of the race that's, of getting that sixth spot. Um, but saying that, going over to NFC, it's pretty tough because, like you said, we already know that
Yes,
the 49ers or Seahawks will grab one of
stupid.
the wild card spots. So that's only going to leave one spot for a lot of teams. Right now, I mean, you can see the Saints, you can see the Eagles, you can even see the Panthers getting in there. Um, but no, like I said, if we're going by what's today, making a decision today, who makes the playoff, I'm gonna go with the Panthers, grabbing that last spot. Mainly because if you look at his last 4 games, 2 of the last 4 games are against teams that are already eliminated from playoffs, the Broncos and the Redskins. So Colin has the advantage already going into the last half or in the last 4 games of the season.
There you go, D. Wayne. What do you look and see is going to take both of those last wild card spots in the AFC and NFC?
Well, the AFC, man, it can get really interesting real fast. The Bills and Jets in the AFC East, those teams, they still got to play each other twice, if I'm not mistaken. So that could be a whole nother, yeah, twice in the next 2 weeks or next 3 weeks. They play 2 out of the next 3 weeks, they play each other. And that could really shape up a lot. If one team wins both teams, both games, that team that loses both games could be out of the playoff race altogether. If they split, that could really, dictate a lot. The Raiders have been reeling lately. That's another team that I thought honestly, I thought him and Chargers would be, which they are right there in that division. I thought them two were both guaranteed playoff teams. Chargers have really opened the door to being on the odd man out. I kind of like Dawson's pick with the Colts. The only thing that worries me about the Colts is their upcoming schedule is just rough. They play the Jaguars again. They play the Titans. Like Dawson said, revamped Titans team that just beat the brakes off the Bengals, and then they play a hot Texas team. Then they play the Bengals, and then they play a Jets team that could be fighting for their playoff spots. You got five. They're playing 5 teams that are playoff teams their last 5 weeks. That's going to say a lot. Like I said, they either going to ride real high and go into the playoffs after beating some of them teams, or they're going to be odd man out. Jacksonville and Tennessee, man, they both them teams have kind of woken up at the right time. Uh, you just hope it's not a little bit too late, especially for Titans. Titans are a team that we've kind of always talked about as a team that should be a playoff team. And beating a team like the Bengals, man, you talking about a team that's only lost, or an owner has only lost what 7 or 8 games through 4 seasons. You got to take that with the lot. But if I'm gonna have to choose a team, I'm gonna say that the Jets end up winning the AFC East. But I do think they end up splitting that these next 2 games. I think the Bills get a wild card spot, and honestly, I don't see the Colts as much as, like I said, I respect Dawson's opinion on the Colts. I don't think the Colts can survive this gauntlet that they're fixing to go through. Um, I think it's going to be the Bills, and I think that the Jaguars are going to slip in and take that last spot. And then, like I said, this is not knocking the Browns. I think the Browns are a team that could slide in and take one of those last 2 spots, but that's just another team. They play the Eagles, they play the Cowboys, they play the Bills. You got and the Bengals 4 of the last 5 games. You got the Eagles and Cowboys who are fighting for playoff spots. The Bills are fighting for a playoff spot, and the Bengals just never take a night off. Um, and you still got a Steelers team. You got Jennings, and the day that we all sleep on Jennings, the day we'll make a mistake because a 2-9 does not represent how well he can play. I just don't think the Browns and Colts are kind of the same boat. Is I don't know if they can make it through that schedule
Yeah.
in playoff position. So I'm going to have to go with I think the Bills are a wild card team, and I think the Jaguars are a wild card team out of the AFC. Over the NFC, like I said, um, the stupid NFC West just ruins all the thing for us.
Yeah.
I just want Meathead and Mo both to hear that. I'm really anticipating their matchup they got coming up pretty quick too. That's going to decide who wins that division. But like I said, you got teams, man. The Cowboys and Eagles are really fighting for it, and let's not sleep on Pepper. When Pepper is not down on his team, he can be a really good opponent. And he's only 2 games out right now. He's only 2 games out. And then you got the NFC South who are just beating each other up. I mean, literally, we're all 2-2, 3-3, 2-2, 2-2 in the division. We're just beating each other up. We'll see who makes it out with the least black eyes. NFC North, I just think they all decide to start losing at the same time. I mean, literally, they're all on losing streaks right now. I still think that's the Vikings division, but they do not get a wild card team out of the division. Um, like I said, one wild card team goes to I'm going to say the 49ers. I just think that the 49ers are going to be your wild card team. I don't know if they walk into Seattle and beat Seattle this next game. Seattle's just playing out of this world. The one twist that could throw everything up, I do think that the Eagles end up winning the NFC East. I think they're on a roll right now, and I think the Cowboys have been reeling a little bit. They do have a tough schedule on the way out. They do play some tough teams. I just think that a team he's built for the playoffs. He's built defensively to win games, and I think he has more matchup with the Cowboys. I think he brings that one out and wins that division. But I think it comes down to the Panthers, Saints, and Cowboys for that last spot. And man, it is really tough. Um, I haven't actually looked to see who the Saints played the last 4 games. Like I said, a lot of that dictates who's going to make it. And
I think I play you, Tampa Bay, maybe Carolina again. I'm not 100% sure about that, but you
see,
and
I know
Tampa
you
Bay
play.
for sure.
The Panthers have probably and I hate to say the easiest route because they do
Yeah.
play an 0-11 Broncos, a 2-9 Redskins. They play a Chargers team that's still going to be fighting for a playoff spot, and a Bears team that will never take a game off. Um, it's going to come down to it. I think it'll come down honestly to the Panthers and Saints. I think the Cowboys are just having a hard time right now. Even after a big win last night, I still think they're having a hard time. I think it comes down to Panthers and Saints, and I have to go with the Panthers just for the fact I think they have just an easier schedule on the way out. The Saints do play the Falcons, Packers, Bucks, and somebody else going out. Um, but I think it might be the Panthers slipping in there to take that last wild card spot.
No, I can't argue with anything either one of you have said today. If I were kind of looking at the AFC, I think there's going to be some interesting races. Of course, the East is going to come down to a photo finish. I think the AFC West is pretty much wrapped up. Of course, Dawson beat me this week. That defense is on fire. That quarterback is playing spectacular, and his rushing game can hit a big play and hit several big plays on me. Sorry, it sucks about the Cleveland Browns. He just kind of hit a little bit of a slide here when he was doing so well early in the season. I'm still pulling for him, but he's definitely in a hole. He's going to need some help to be able to get out of that hole. I do like the Colts to take that last wild card spot. Just like Dawson said, I think that he'll be one of the top teams in the AFC when it's all said and done. And then whoever doesn't win the AFC East, I think will take the other wild card position, and that'll wrap up the AFC. If you're looking at the NFC, though, it's interesting to hear that you think the Eagles will win that division. My faith is still laying with the Cowboys. Of course, Maniac is not on the show today, and he is going through some like real life things with some health issues back at home with mom, and so he's in our thoughts and prayers, and we're trying our very best to help support him and keep his responsibilities low here so that he can focus his energies. But at the same time, he's still 5-0 in that division. He plays that division extremely well. He struggled on the road and he struggled out of his division this year, but I still think that that's his division to win. And I really don't see a wild card coming out of here. The Eagles could surprise me if they come up with a big win against the Dallas Cowboys, but I just think there's not going to be a wild card that comes out of the East or the North. I think you had it right about that. I don't like either one of those divisions for an extra playoff position. Of course, San Francisco will get the other wild card round. That team is spectacular, and I see the wild card coming out of the NFC South. I do think it will be a neck and neck race with the Falcons and Panthers, but the Panthers need the Falcons to do some help to help them try to win that division. But I see both of those teams making it. I think Dawson put my playoff hopes out of its misery with a big win this week, and I do like the Atlanta Falcons and Carolina Panthers to both make the playoffs. I see Atlanta winning the division and Carolina taking that last wild card spot, which is going to make an interesting last like 3 weeks here, especially like my team. Even though it's all over, I could play spoiler here and maybe knock a couple of these guys out and make this race even more interesting. But NFC South still has that potential to end in every team having a winning record like we did back in season one. So lots of really good games still to come. Remember, submit those games for the Instant Classic submission thread that we have. So we have a thread that you guys can go on and see games from the past 3 years here in the OMFL. Just classic games that are just fun to watch, including OMFL bowl games, playoff games, and regular season games. I think I've got one or two in there now that has to be processed, including my Raiders matchup from last week that I'm going to make sure that I get in there. And that may even be my game of the week since that one came down to a field goal. So I wanted to take a look at some stats here because there are some very interesting stats that have been taking place so far this season. I feel like we've had or found a really good set of sliders and time. And man, those two things were a struggle this Madden to really find a good mix of, but I think that we've hit that. So my question to both of you, and Dwayne, I want to start with you on this one, is we've got two records that are kind of getting close here, and it has been the year of the wide receiver and the quarterback, right? We've had a lot of really good combinations there. So my question is, what is more likely to happen? Should we have a 1,500-yard rushing running back, or will we have a 2,100-yard receiving wide receiver? Which one of those two is most likely, and who do you think would do either one of those?
Well, it's a tough one. Honestly, you got two, maybe three, but at least two running backs that could get 1,600 or 1,500 yards, and Bernard and Truelock from Seattle. But I do think the 2,100-yard receiving, and I know that sounds ridiculous to say that's easier to get than 1,500 yards rushing, but with Will Kesey out of Seattle, I just think that guy, man, can just break out and have, a 200-yard game. He's got, let's see, he got 5 games left, if I'm not mistaken, and he's already at 1,700 yards, and he's averaging a good over 100 yards a game right now. And I just think it's easier for that 2,100-yard mark to be broken, especially in the offense he plays in. Mo just scores so fast and scores so many points, and he just gets people off the field. That he gets so many possessions, and honestly, he just doesn't waste many possessions. Kesey is the guy in that offense, and I just think it's easier for that 2,100-yard receiver out of Kesey than it is for Bernard and Trulock to get to 1,500 yards. I do think it is possible for them to get to 1,500, especially Trulock, because Mo plays ahead so much. And Bernard in the same aspect. I just think Bernard has a tougher road coming up in some of these games he's got next couple weeks when he plays somebody like Jacksonville or somebody like that does really like to stop the run. I just think Kesey, man, if I was a betting man, which I am, I would bet on Kesey hands down to get 2,100 yards before either one of them get 1,500.
Dawson, what do you like better, the 1,500-yard running back or the 2,100-yard receiver?
Yeah, I want to agree with Dakota here. I can see a 2,100 yard wideout, mainly because if you look at the stats right now, Kesey is kind of leading all the categories except the receptions. You got Kesey with right at 16 or 1,700 yards, and you got Forbes out of New Orleans, you got right at 1,500 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So those two of the receivers I can see getting it. More likely, I can see Kesey. Mainly, if you look, his yards after catch is almost 700 yards after catch. So that's pretty amazing as far as receiving and moving the ball. The way Mo plays them, I can see him getting the 2,100 yards more or less than us having a running back getting 1,500 yards. He got his running back True Luck. He has a chance. With 5 games left, and he already has 1,000 rushing yards. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays that out. How he plays the next 5 games. Bernard, he's right up there. He's leading currently, with almost 1,100 rushing yards. So, but like Dakota said, he got some tough games going ahead. I think got to play the Browns again. So that front seven is very hard, to rush against. So I think that's gonna probably put a damper on that. Then you even got Jordan Howard out of Chicago. He's got right over 1,000 yards, but I think he's got 4 games left, so it's gonna be tough for him to get get up to that 1,500 yard mark. So I want to go with the 2,100 yard receiving for Will Kesey.
Yeah, I think that the Seattle offense is just retarded. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot believe that the numbers that this team is putting up, just crazy, crazy, crazy numbers. With Trulock having 14 touchdowns, I think Kesey has like 19 touchdowns or 17 touchdowns. Just crazy numbers coming from this offense. We'll have to break that down on one of the next few press pass lives that we do. But yeah, it should make for an interesting season here. It has been the year of the receiver, with a bunch of receivers having really spectacular seasons and lots of really good stuff. Let's keep it, though, here talking about players who've had really, really great seasons. And my question that I want to present to both of you, and I want to start with you, Dawson, is talking about the sack record. Now, number one, talking about the Seattle team, they're probably going to break tons of team records again this season. But he also owns the sack record at 34, I think is the number with Bennett that happened a couple of seasons ago. And again, this year, we've got a couple of guys that are right up there. You've got Siller from Houston, McDowell from Seattle, and Clinton from Carolina, who I think I have single-handedly put into the Pro Bowl with the games versus me. But you got Clinton with 26, McDowell with 24, Siller with 21. Do you guys think that the sack record of 34 will be broken this season?
Yeah, we're right now Clinton leads the league with 26 sacks. So I want to go. I'm hoping he doesn't get it because I still got to play him. But I can see he still has I mean, he has a chance to break that record with that many sacks already. McDowell for the Seattle Seahawks, he has 23 sacks, so he has an outside chance of getting it, of breaking it, but I don't see him getting that many sacks, and with 5 games left, it could possibly the way the way some of these games are played out. But I think really the only player that has a chance to break in it this year is Clinton. Excuse me. And like, I don't think he'll break it, but he still has a chance. Right now, I'm gonna go. No, he won't be broken.
Well, there you go. Dawson doesn't think it's going to happen. D. Wayne, do you think that sack record falls this season?
It's man, it's possible, and I say that as in Clinton. Has had a couple games this year where he had, and one of them was against you, Nate. I'm sure I need to remind you about that, where he had 5 sacks in a game. Him in Kansas City, he's had some 5 sack game. He had a 4 sack game. Uh, McDowell had, at the same time is really came on late. He started the season slow, and when I say slow, slow for one of Mo's defensive linemen. But he's had a 5 sack game, and he's had a 4 sack game. He's had multiple sack games like that. I don't think that it will be broke this year. I think, what if I'm not mistaken, we talked about it earlier. The sacks at 34 for Michael Bennett, and so we're talking about Clinton is at 26, if I'm not mistaken. 8 sacks over these last, 4 games. It's very possible. It's very possible for Clinton to do it. I don't think he does it. I really don't think he's going to get that. But I think he will close it. I don't think McDowell will get it at all. I don't think he'll. I think he probably will top out at around 28, 29, which is still something to be proud of, Mo. Not that you need anything else to be proud of. Um, but I think Clinton will make a push for it. I think Clinton could really push the, 32, 33, because, like I said, if he has a monster game where he has 5 sacks, he might blow it out of the water. I just don't think his last few opponents he's got, and at this point in the season, I think guys are just not going to sit back there and take that 5 sack game. And I not that sometimes you have a choice to take a 5 sack game with the way Clinton plays. But I don't think he breaks it this year. I think Clinton gets around 32, 33. I think he moves into second place all time on our defensive sacks. But no, I do not think he breaks Michael Bennett's record.
I have personally given up about 6 or 7 5 sack games this season. Trust me, no one just sits back there and takes it. I just gave up a 5.5 sack game to Bosa this week. That's what happens when your two starting tackles go out for long periods of
Right.
time, and you have to start backups. You just don't have any time. The Madden this year, um, whether it's user, if it's user, it's 1,000% going to be an instant shed. But even when it's not a user, that time back there in the pocket is very, very limited. And we have our pass block sliders way up there. They're pretty high. We may give them a slight little tiny boost, but I don't know. They're pretty high already, and it doesn't seem to fix anything. So, um, yeah, that's a look at the sack record. I find it surprising that you guys don't think that it's going to fall. I personally do. I think that Clinton's going to break it. I think he still has to face my team this season, and that didn't go so well the first go around for me. So I do see this sack record being broken, or at the very minimum, it's going to be tied. I think that this is the year it falls. I just find it amazing. Like, we've talked so much about Seattle, but Carolina's had such a great season as well. But the Seattle Seahawks, man, with these crazy offensive numbers that they've put up, have also always been a top in sacks, always been a top in interceptions, has a great running back. It's just amazing how great Mo is playing this Madden. This has really found his niche, and he is sticking to it, and he's playing really, really well. So now it's time for us to open up the mailbox and get to some owner submitted questions. Let me just refresh my little page here because I heard that there were some new questions that were being dropped late last night. Um, but let's go ahead and dig at a couple of these questions. Smash has given us a couple of questions here. He says, with 3-0-8 teams, several 1-2 teams, a couple of these teams were in the playoffs. Are some tanking? So that is his question. He believes that some teams may be tanking. What do you guys think about tanking, which is always a very interesting concept?
Go
Yeah,
ahead, Dawson.
yeah, I go. As far as know, right now, I think that we have. There's only one team that hasn't won a game yet, and that's the Denver Broncos. And I would say, every time I play them, it's always been a battle. He just, unfortunately, he's just been coming up on the short end of the stick. This year, I mean, he had a 1 point loss against the Patriots. I think I came back, when we first played back in week two. I think he was up by 14 points, and I came back and won by 6. And then the next time we battled out, it was a 3 point game, a win on my side. So I don't think he's tanking. Maybe he's busy with his personal life, and he just haven't had time to focus more on playing and getting used to his roster, his guys and everything. But it's kind of interesting to see. You already got some teams that are eliminated, out of the playoffs, and a lot. I guess in real life, the GM aspect of it, you want them to get a good draft pick, but then if you look at the coaches and the players, they want to win and and I guess show up, and play. So it is kind of interesting topic. Um, I mean, I know I've been eliminated from the playoffs. This season or this cycle, I think. Right now, this is my second time, of at least being playoff eligible, and I never tank. It's kind of hard, frustrating because you want to win, but again, if you win, you're hurting your draft spot. So, but it is interesting, and hopefully, Glaze will pick up his win, at least win one game, because I don't think since I've been here there haven't been an 0-16 team.
Um, I think Outlaw really pushed the 0-16 team one time. I can't remember when he did it. He might have won a game.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
I'm not I'm not taking a shot at Outlaw, but I think he was the closest one we've ever had
I
to it.
think I
Um,
think you were both here back in two Maddens ago. Maybe not, but we had a Rams team that went 0-16, and then
Oh,
like
okay.
3 seasons later won the Super Bowl. So it quickly was able to turn things around. And then he left us because he felt like there were better leagues out there. So good luck to him.
All right. Now, I honestly, I do think maybe some people in the back of their mind, you hear it all the time. You hear it mostly from people who are winning record teams. That's the biggest thing that kills me about, oh my God, my season's over. I should start tanking now. That's just ridiculous. I could never do it. Kind of like Dawson said, it gets frustrating. And I know that the first thing the Nate's going to say is, Dakota, you hadn't had a bad season. Uh, but I just couldn't lose games on purpose. It eats me up losing. I could not throw a game on purpose. But I look at somebody like the Broncos, 7 of his 11 losses are within one touchdown. And when I played him, he was not playing to lose, at least in my opinion. I've played him. He's a good player. Sometimes they just don't fall your way. And kind of like Dawson said, I think he's been away and he hasn't been to practice. And you can tell some of these guys who play a lot of Madden, you can tell who plays and who really, gets that technique down and gets that strategy down. You can just tell. I don't think, honestly, that's just me personally. I think and I'm not going to name off who it was. I've only seen one instance since I've been in this league that I thought somebody did tank. Um, Maybe two, but I know one for sure who did, and we're leaving them nameless. Um, but I don't honestly don't think so. I think a lot of these teams that you got 1-10, 2-9 are new guys in this league. It just takes some adjustment time, like Dawson said. We want to see Glaze get that win. I don't want to see nobody go winless. But you got like the Rams, the Redskins. I think the Redskins were the new owner who took over when Jennings took over the Steelers, and I think even the Steelers, he's 2-9. He's getting accustomed to that team. He's won a game or two, a game at least since he took over that team. But you take over a whole new team is a whole different thing. And a lot of these teams that are 1-10, 2-9 are just new owners, guys trying to figure things out. I honestly don't think we have any tanking in this season right here. I just think you have some teams that just bad luck. I mean, look at the Broncos. He could just as easily be, 7-4 instead of 0-11. And I know a loss is a loss, uh, but he could just as easy have turned the season around. But sometimes that's just the way the quote unquote cookie crumbles. The games haven't fell his way this year.
Yeah, I personally don't believe that teams tank. There, of course, you've been doing this for 19 years as I have. There are some guys that you question. I don't think that guys openly tank. If you're found to be openly tanking games, we'll have to have a discussion about removing you. But I will also say this: I think that there are different definitions of what you mean by tanking. I think it's one thing to go into a game and purposely try to lose. I don't think that happens that often. Or there's some teams that have done it. Yeah, but I mean, look, it's 19 years. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of crazy people out there that probably have tried some stuff. But I also believe that there have been seasons that I knew it was over, and if I lose a couple more games here, I'm going to know it's over. Um, I don't think it's considered tanking if you start a bunch of young players, right? And you're trying to get
Right.
XP and you're trying to build for the future. As Dawson says, you're not trying to lose, but you also don't want to start winning a bunch of games and go on a 5-game winning streak when your season's way over because you're just hurting your draft position. But I have personally put in backups and played young players that I need to get XP and build up to either better my backup positions that I have, or if I need to just have that player next year be a starter. And I beat teams with those backups in. Last season, I started all backups, not all backups, but a lot of primary backups for the last 4 or 5 games of the season. And, uh, I almost beat D Wayne until a DC happened. And I think I beat the Panthers. So I think it's one thing to say, you know what, my season's over. Who do I need to get playing time so that I can have a better team next season? Whether it's a better team because I have better backups, or it's a better team because these young players are now able to be starters for me and just be better. I don't consider that tanking. I think tanking is purposely going into games and throwing games. I don't think that that happens. Yes, there's been some guys that have questioned if that's happening, but who has an hour and a half to sit there and purposely try to lose a game? I just that's some psychopathic stuff. I just don't think it happens. So I don't think anybody's tanking. I think Dwayne and Dawson both hit the nail on the head that they're just some young players who are trying to figure out how to win in this league. So I'm not going to take his question two. It's too early to start talking about top rookies. Question three, Smash, kind of confuses me. He says, will there be different AFC, NFC winners? I'm guessing he's talking about the teams that represent us in the OMFL Bowl. So I will present that to you guys. D-Wayne, do you think there'll be different teams in the NFC and AFC championship games that represent us in the OMFL Bowl for season 77?
I like I said, if you were a betting man, the Bengals and Seahawks, man, it'd be really hard to bet against them making it back. I don't think Bengals have looked as invincible this year as they did last year. I think they've shown a lot more, a lot more weaknesses this year. And I think some AFC teams have really picked up on it. I think your AFC is your more wild card, and no pun intended, the wild card, but I think you got a lot of teams that could come out of the AFC. Um, I think you got the whole AFC South. All four of them guys could have or have played in big games, and I think any of those teams that come out could shock the Bengals. I mean, we've already seen the Titans just. I think they called their shot like 3 weeks ago, so they were going to blow the Bengals out this week, and they did. I don't know if anybody else seen that or not. But I think you got the AFC is the one I think could be different. I don't think the Bengals are a shoe in this year like everybody has had them for the last couple seasons. The NFC is the one where as good as a lot of us guys have played, the only team that beat Seattle was Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. And for some reason, that's like two wins in the last 3 seasons
Yeah,
Philadelphia had against Seattle. And I don't know if that's just his kryptonite or what, or he just takes his defensive, tenacity to a whole nother level against Seattle. But speaking for my thing, man, it's been hard to get over the Mo hump per se these last couple of years. He just been a step ahead of me. And honestly, if I had to pick one, I would actually say the NFC would be more of a lock for Seattle than the AFC is for Cincinnati. I think the AFC is a lot more wide open. I think Cincinnati has shown a lot more weaknesses, and I think the AFC is a lot more up in the air. I think that if somebody beats Seattle, it will be a huge upset. And that's speaking for me. That's speaking for if I come out of the South, that's speaking for Nate or the Panthers, the Cowboys, Eagles. I think it'd be a monumentous thing that if we could upset Seattle. I think they're at that point. But I think Cincinnati is a team that I think could be upset a lot easier, and I do think you'll have a different team come out of the AFC.
I have no interest to play Seattle. No, thank you. Dawson,
Yeah.
do you think new teams represent us?
Uh, no, I don't think so. I think it's going to be the Bengals and Seahawks back in the ball again. I guess round two for both of them. I think it can happen, like Dakota was saying. I mean, there can be upsets, as you can see. This past week, Titans pulled the upset over the Bengals, and Seahawks with the Eagles. I think that was week one is when the Seahawks lost, so they won 10 straight so far. So I mean, they're just the powerhouse like they are now. 49ers, I think that's going to be the biggest threat right there. For them. I mean, if they can control the ball and limit their turnovers, and just the way he uses that linebacker in the middle of the field. I think he can pull the upset. I think he's the heavy favorite pulling the upset, in my opinion. Once we get into the playoffs, but as far as AFC, I know I think there's a chance that we can, as far as me speaking, as far as myself and other owners, we can pull the upset and beat Bengals. But I think if I'm gonna go right now, I'm gonna say the Bengals and Seahawks are back in the ball.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I don't think there's any new teams. I think the only other team that could possibly be in there is the Atlanta Falcons, and That's not a new team by any stretch of the means. So, yeah, I think it's the same old. Let's just rinse and repeat it, and we'll watch it again next season. So, let's move over to Outlaw. He wants to know who is the best OMFL user linebacker in the OMFL.
Ooh,
That's a good question.
that
Dawson, do
is a
you have
good
an
one.
answer?
You there, Dawson?
Oh,
Oh,
yes. I would have to say, like I said, Meathead is to me is the best user linebacker. Just the way he controls the field. I would say Buccaneers is close second.
yeah.
When I played him recently, he just the way with he users Quan Alexander. He's the
Stupid.
speed. Yeah, it's just crazy how they can do that because I tried myself and I fail all the time. I see them, they throw it over my head or right beside me. I can't pick it off or anything. But I would say Meathead as far as the best user linebacker.
Well, like Dawson, it's hard to argue against Meathead. I think Meathead, since he's been in this league with us, man, has been just crazy good. You just pretty much have to cancel off the middle of the field when you play someone like him, and he does his middle linebacking different than I always, and Nate might not like me using him as an example, but I've always used Ducks as my level of user linebacker because he's the first person I ever played against, and I know that might make me sound like a noob, but that I ever played against that could just shut down all defense with the linebacker or shut down offense. I mean, but I think that right now you have San Francisco, who is just dominant. But I ain't gonna lie to you, two sleepers on me is Nate with his middle linebacker, who has vastly improved, and Maniac has just been dominant with his middle linebacker. Um, he's really turned around. I didn't think he would make that transition as easy as he did. And like I said, Nate picked me off, if I'm not mistaken, once or twice last time we played. And I can't remember if it was middle linebacker or not. But it's really hard also to go against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, in my opinion, is the best user linebacker guy that I've played against since Ducks, in my opinion. I think Meathead is right there with him. But Tampa Bay, man, he can just do so much with Quan Alexander in the middle of the field, and his little variety, pretty much inside the numbers right there. If he's in zone, man, you just might as well not even throw it near him. I think he's picked me off 3 or 4 times since he's joined this league, and I have to go with Tampa Bay as the best user linebacker so far.
I like to I want to add also Massimo. He's pretty no he
Mm-hmm.
I think right now he's I want to say he's using what's this Williamson Barry
Yeah, yeah,
Williamson,
yeah.
and right now he's got 9 interceptions. So he's right up there as far as at least the top five. User linebacker.
I don't have a problem with ducks at all. I just don't have time for people who don't want to be a part of something that
Right.
I invest so much time and energy into. And honestly, just put it bluntly, I get sick of the NCAA talk. I get that people love that game, and I hope that it comes out so that people can just shut up about it. But it hasn't, like, they haven't created a game in many years, and like I don't cry about the PC game not being out anymore, even though it was a better Madden game. I just get put out with guys like because it makes me feel like guys don't appreciate the work that we put into what we have, right? And when people just talk about how if this were here, that's what I would go do. Well, then just get the hell out of here and go do that because we're doing some really good stuff here. I'm getting on a soapbox now, but it's like I get put out because you two give up your time and energy, and I get up. I just do. Like I'm not bragging. I give up 3 times as much time and energy and effort as anyone else here combined. And when people talk about how much better other things were, it makes me feel like all of what we all do together doesn't matter and isn't worth it. And I get Ducks personally used to put me out because he would only give to the community when it benefited him. And if it didn't benefit him, he wasn't interested. So I'm getting off my Ducks rant. He's still a part of the community. He's still here. He talks like once a month. So whatever. I hope NCAA comes out and he can go find a league to play in and make him finally happy for once because that dude was never happy. All right, off of my Ducks rant here because I have no issues with him, but just don't talk about our community. Um, he wants to know, Outlaw, is Meathead a viable option to beat the Seahawks? He says he did lose big earlier this year, but he's playing dominant football. I'm going to go to you, Dwayne. What do you think?
He is a viable option. I do think he is somebody who could upset him. He plays the user linebacker well enough, and has always been a defensive guy that don't let his defensive stats just completely fool you. Passing wise, he's 31st in the league this year, which when you win games, guys have to throw it against you. I know we talked about that last one. You still got to be able to stop people, but I do think he comes up with stops when he needs to make stops. And his offense is well improved. We talked about his quarterback. His quarterback has played phenomenal this year. His running game has played great. He's got one of the most dangerous receivers who can just get open on any possession. I think he is a very viable option. I think he's seen Mo enough. I think if anybody knows Mo inside and out, I think it's him. And I think he's a very viable option. I just can't wait for this rematch they have. I can't remember if it's this week or next week, but it comes up real quick.
Week 15.
Week 15.
What do you think, Dawson?
Yeah, I think he has a great chance. What we really haven't really talked about is this rookie quarterback. He's just throwing some numbers out there. Right now he's got 2,700 passing yards. So he's doing really good as far as passing wise. Um, is like you said, his passing defense passing is 31st, but the rushing, is six as far as only allowing 73 yards a game. I think he has a chance, and it would be really interesting to see to watch that Week 15 game. I know he had a 14-point loss to the Jets a couple weeks ago, but I mean he came rolling along and grab that win over the Buccaneers in Week 13. So next couple weeks, it'll be interesting to watch that match, and I think he has a chance. Just be interesting if Meathead can limit his turnovers and force Mo into turning the ball over more often.
I have some pretty deep analytical thoughts on this one, and I'll try to summarize them quickly. Are the 49ers a viable option to beat the Seahawks? No. There we go. Outlaw, I'm not going to use your third question. I will answer that, though, even though this doesn't count for your incentive program. The answer is no. I just don't want to bring up another league that Outlaw likes to talk about a lot. But the NFC South, Anthony Tanner wants to know, the NFC South being so tight, who will end up with the crown this season? I think we've already kind of talked about that when we gave our predictions a while ago, so we're not going to use that one. And then he says, I benched my starting quarterback after throwing some picks and missing wide open targets. Does anyone else do this? What's your thoughts on the matter? That's a pretty interesting conversation. Dawson, what do you think about that? Would you can
Yeah,
your starting quarterback?
I done it a couple weeks ago when I was playing the Patriots. It was raining in the game, and my guys or my starting quarterback, he was just overthrowing the ball, multiple times. So I put Chad Kelly in, and he was actually doing pretty good. And then he started getting overthrowing. So then I put my starting quarterback back in. So that's the first time I actually did that. I only look at the stats wise, and he has better throwing power, accuracy wise. So I try to, just rely on that. I have seen a few guys done that and did that before in the past. So I mean, like I said, I did it once, and I probably won't do it again. But it is kind of interesting to see, when you do see that as far as the accuracy, the better overall player, benching him and starting another quarterback. I'm not sure if that kind of affects anything. I'm not sure on that level.
Dwayne, what do you think?
Me personally, I've never done it. I just kind of just ride it out, which isn't always the right way to do it. I don't think it's wrong. I see some guys that win a lot of games do it. I mean, Maniac's been one. Maniac will yank you so fast if you start off bad, or Cincy will yank his quarterback so fast if he's not playing well. So no, I don't see a problem. I think it's a personality choice or a coaching choice. I think if you feel like you have a better chance to win with that backup after he comes out, and I am a firm believer in. I think if a quarterback comes out slow, I think it's a continuous thing. I don't know why Madden seems like it's really streak oriented. I think if your quarterback comes out and plays real well at the first of the game, I think it's something that just keeps carrying. And I think some guys are willing to switch it up and try that next quarterback and see if they can get a change of tempo, a change of momentum. Just me, somebody who runs the ball, reliably likes to run the ball. I'm fine with if my quarterback has an off game. I'm just gonna ride it out. But I think it's a personal choice, a coach choice. That if you think that you can get extra spark, Dawson's one. I've seen Dawson go with that starting quarterback, not play real well or something like that, and put Chad Kelly in, and Chad Kelly just catches fire and wins the game. So I think it's a hit and miss thing. I think for some people it works. Some people like me, I don't do it personally, but I've seen it work well for other coaches.
Yeah, I've done it, but only because you're just so frustrated. You feel like you have no options, and then I usually end up putting the other guy back in if it's a longer game, just because you're like, well, he does have better stats, so let me try it again. But yeah, I think that it's. I don't know that it makes any difference outside of a difference for the user, but it is a really super interesting concept. I think if it helps you mentally reset and be able to control the game and control your emotions, then it's a good thing. But does it actually matter in the game? I have my doubts. Cly has a really interesting question, but we're going to save it. So we're not going to use it, but I'm also not going to can it. I'm going to just put it saved. I want to carry that on the next show that we have. He says, I believe this was briefly discussed before, but who are some of your early considerations for player imports eligibility for the OMFL Hall of Fame? I think that that's a really great question that I want to cover on the next show. And then Smash gives us a couple more questions. Let's see what they are. Will anyone take the NFC crown from the Seahawks, and which teams will beat the AFC, take down the Bengals? Um, I think that we have. You know what? Let's talk about it. We briefly kind of hit on it. Do you guys think anybody takes away the Seahawks or the Bengals from either one of those divisions?
Neat. Go. You want Dawson?
Yeah, I was, right now, you say, Meathead, he's a close, right there. I think he can take it away from Seahawks. Of course, you got to add the Falcons, and he's always in the mix, there. You can even add, Panthers, Cowboys. They're, all right there that they can beat. Seahawks. It's just a matter of, will they? As far as the AFC, um, I like to put myself in there just because, I guess, I guess I got a chance, but, there's a lot of other teams. You got the, you never can count out the Jaguars. They're kind of setting 6-5 right now, but if they get into the playoffs, then they're going to be a team to watch out for. Then you also got the Texans. They're sitting at 8-4. I think they got a big win over the, Bears, just last night. And then the Bengals, I think, it's going to be hard. Same thing as far as the Seahawks, but there are chances that, Bengals and the Seahawks can go down this year.
I think Dawson made a lot of good points. I think the NFC, like I said earlier, I think the NFC is a little harder to knock off Seattle than the AFC is to knock off Cincy. I think this, NFC, you got some teams. Whoever comes out of the NFC South will be mentally and battle prepared to face Seattle. Whether that matters or not, that's to come. The NFC North, you have some teams. I mean, I think Minnesota is the one team out of that division that he plays such good defense and stuff like that he might be able just to limit Seattle and keep the game close. In the East, you have three teams right there in the Cowboys, Eagles, and Giants who are playoff tested teams who have all won 12, 13 games in the season. I think on any given day, those teams could step up and compete with Seattle. As far fetched as anybody in the NFC, I mean, I just don't think that any of us match up to the point that Seattle just, man, they're just such a gaudy team. The AFC, though, I think, like Dawson said, you have the Jaguars. You can't sleep, man. If they sneak in the playoffs, you can't sleep on them. Even though he has dropped some, he's let us down in the playoffs a few times for a team that's won 14, 15 games in a season. You can't ever sleep on him. And the Texans, as well as they're playing, their whole AFC South is a lot like the NFC South. I think all them teams are tested and can upset Cincinnati. And I know Dawson will be modest about his Chargers, but I think the Chargers have such a just a good front seven, a good defense, and overall, and get to the quarterback, and that's one way you can get to Cincinnati and Cincy. I think that you have to get to his quarterback and have to make him rush throws and get him frustrated because if you sit back and just try to he's going to pick you apart. And if you let him get a little confidence, he's always like I always so you say with Ducks, you give him a little confidence, he just takes it and runs with it. You got to break him early. You got to get in his head early. And somebody like the Chargers or the Raiders with their pass rush, or even the Jets with their pass rush, our teams I think could get back there and disrupt Cincinnati. And if Cleveland steps up, and I always said Cleveland is a kryptonite in my opinion, to Cincinnati defensively. I just don't think offensively they can compete with him, but defensively he can frustrate Cincinnati so bad. I just don't think offensively he can beat him. But I think the AFC in general has a better chance at upending Cincinnati than the NFC does, just because man, you have some teams that are built to knock off Cincinnati. If you can get in his backfield and just get in his head a little bit and knock his quarterback down a few times, I think you can beat the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I'm the other way. I gotta disagree. I think that if anybody falls, it's going to be in the NFC. First, I don't think either one of these teams fall, but anything can happen. Anything can happen anytime you guys fire up that game. But I think the NFC is actually built better to beat the Seahawks than the AFC for the Cincinnati Bengals. I just don't see many top tier teams. I think that Dawson and the Chargers can get where he was with the Rams in NFC, but he still is a couple players away. I just don't know if anyone else in that division can step up to the plate, right? The days of the Ducks and B-Hogs and like all of those guys that were powerhouses in the AFC, the Who days, like those days are no longer, and you've got a lot of young teams who are trying to build up and a lot of old players who just aren't that plugged in. The Brady's, you know what I mean? There are teams there that just aren't what they used to be 2 Maddens ago, last Madden. You know what I'm saying? And so I think the NFC is actually built more to beat the Seahawks because they have the Atlanta Falcons. They have Zip, who's actually won when he was in Kansas City, right? They have a Maniac with the Cowboys. Like, they are better teams in the NFC that could win. I just don't think that either will. I just think both of those teams, for whatever reasons, are heads and shoulders. The Seahawks are just stupid good this year. And it's just, I don't see either team beating them. And then we're going to put a bow on the show. I'm not going to use Smash's last question, basically because I don't understand what he's asking, but I also think that our trade rules are not changing, Smash. I love our calendar. We've tweaked it just a little bit because players don't digress as early anymore. But at the same time, or there's a cap, I should say, on how far down they digress. But at the same time, I love our trade rules. I love our calendar. It allows people to move players, but if you're going to move big players, it's going to cost you, and you're not going to be able to move a lot of big players. We've tweaked our salary cap situation, penalty allowed just a little bit to allow a little extra breathing room, but it still doesn't allow you to cut a team full of stars. So let's put a bow on the show, guys. Let's give us just your final thoughts, Dawson, on how you feel like things have went up to this point of the season, and just your final thoughts on the show.
Yeah, as far as this season goes, it's been, I guess, in my favor more times than the last couple ones. I'm finally, right up there as far as, almost making the playoffs or clinching the playoff spot. Just need to win at least, I would say, 2 more games, and then I'll be in there. I mean, I feel like we're running pretty smoothly, and I know we're kind of changed up as far as the scheduling. Who's handling the scheduling. So just to get your games scheduled and play them, knock them out. It's the weekend, so just knock it out, and we'll go from there and get ready to go to the throwback week in week 14.
Dwayne, before I go to you, you brought up a good point. I'm glad you did. Let me just give my personal disclaimer because I think that I want to handle this the best that's as respectful to everybody here as possible. So we have had some changes. Maniac has some very unfortunate things. He needs to step back for a few minutes, and we have such a family here that we're going to allow him that space, and we're going to protect him and support him and do everything that we can in that space so that he feels good. So there is a new owner of OMFL2. Chaotic has taken that over, and a new owner for OMFL Coach Mode, Priest. So congratulations to both of those guys for stepping up and helping us with that. I did talk to my two buddies here, but they weren't quite ready to make that leap. And I will also say the disclaimer that has been given to everyone in this situation is that at the very end of the day, the OMFL is why we are all here. It is why we have a community. It is why we have a following. It has got 19 years invested into it. It comes first. It is the mothership that steers this. It produces the most content on the most regular basis. It is the mothership. And so if other leagues begin to hurt what we're doing in the OMFL, then we will have to look at shutting things down. But as of now, we're going to try to keep the puppy rolling. Chaotic has stepped up to do both his board duties here and run the OMFL2. They have a board that kind of keep things going, and then Priest is stepping up with OMFL coach mode. I will also say the part that I kind of set the disclaimer for is that Bill is now going to be a part of the board again. He used to be a part of the board. Yeah, real life happened. He needed to take a breather for a couple of seasons. He came back. And Bill, I know, can rub people wrong. Bill is like chaotic, can be at times a little rough around the edges, though I got to give it chaotic the last, I don't human year, like real life calendar year. Chaotic has really worked on how he communicates with people to not be as rough, and I think chaotic handles people in a super um, respectful, polite, great manner. And if you take chaotic wrong, then it's because you're being defensive. So I will say this about Beal, though he may rub people wrong sometimes, you cannot question his passion and his dedication to this community and to this league. He has earned this position. He has always helped, whether it be Dawson or Maniac. Dawson will be helping him with this a little bit and trying to help kind of be that go-between in case there are some relationships there that don't respond well to Bill. But in my opinion, the easiest way to keep Bill off of your back is follow the rules. If you schedule within 24 hours, Bill will never annoy you. He can't annoy you. He won't annoy you. Bill is not out to annoy people, but he is out to make you sure you follow the rules. And so the easiest way to make him leave you alone is do what you're supposed to do. Do your job. Schedule your games. Get them on the form. And if you don't, then expect a message from Bill. And to be honest, that's what I need. That's what we want here. We need somebody to hold people accountable. I can't do what I do here and do that, and so that's why Bill's going to have this position. And again, you don't want him on your back. Do your job, and he won't be on your back. And don't give me a list of excuses of why you can't do what you're supposed to do, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. Bill, no, 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 no. We all have the same life. We all we're all busy. We all have families. We all have like things going on. It takes 10 seconds to communicate. If you don't have time to post on the forums, it takes 10 seconds to send a message to be able to say, here's what I'm doing. I'll post tomorrow. I'll post when I get home, whatever. But this is why it's not going to be up in 24 hours. You're communicating with him. He knows. It's super simple. It's super easy. I am excited about the new things that are going on. And yes, Throwback Week is quickly upon us, and that's always a super fun week. Give us a lot of photos. Give us some stuff that we can look at. And I'm back off of my rant horse and over to D. Wayne to put his closing thoughts on the show.
Well, I think you, like I said, you covered a lot. You and Dawson both did. Guys, it don't take, worst case, it takes a few minutes to text somebody or text who your opponent is and ask him if he can post on the forum for you,
Yep.
and y'all can work something out. It don't take much. I've never understood guys on here that will go 48 hours, 50 hours without even, messaging me back. I know for myself, I'm on my phone quite a bit. It don't take much to message back. And to touch on Chaotix and Bill, it's two guys who have, I say improved a lot, but improved a lot just personality wise. I'm sure they're probably pretty, stern people in real life. I could just take that guess right now. But I remember
Well,
when I
Bill's
first
a
got
New Yorker and Chaotic is a Cajun, so there you go.
there. For when I first got here, for the new guys here, don't be scared to go to Bill and Chaotic. I know that Chaotix used to scare the crap out of me when I seen his name pop up in my Discord thing. But he's growing on me, and you just gotta know, hey, man, some guys, they're just the way they are. Bill is a real good guy, but if you schedule within 24 hours, and he is gonna post in the main chat what games are left, who hasn't posted, and for me, I like seeing that. It keeps everybody updated. Therefore, last 12, 24 hours of our advance. We're not trying to rush and get everybody in things. Everybody knows what's going on. It just don't take much, guys. Just post. Let your opponent know what's going on. Worst case scenario, let your opponent know what's going on, or message Dakota or Bill and go from there. Because Bill is your scheduling guy now. So, I know we ran into this before. Well, I told this guy and I told this guy. Well, if you can't tell nobody else, tell Bill or tell Dawson what you have going on. That can eliminate a lot of problems. But I think it's been good. I think we have a lot of energy, a lot of teams still fighting. This isn't one of those seasons where we have 3 or 4 divisions already locked up at this point. I think we have a lot of guys that are fighting for positions, and a lot of new guys that are they're kind of getting involved and seeing how great of a league we do have here. I'm just excited to see where we go from this. And like Nate said, share a lot of these throwback uniforms, share some pictures, share stuff, and I'm speaking to myself too when I say this. We got to get the content back up, guys. Um, I know we've kind of slacked a little bit, and I'm talking to myself. I've slacked on getting my content, but just remember for incentives and just in general, man, guys, we love to see write ups and stuff on your teams. That's just part of it. This isn't just a play now league. Um, it's a whole community, and we like to hear about your team. But I'm just excited to get this playoff push going.
Yep, I agree. And the team Twitters blew up a couple of weeks ago. They've been real quiet lately, but I love those. Like the Bears are super active on his. I love what Dwayne is doing with all the ones that he's doing. I talked to Pepper about doing a league one. I haven't seen it, so I don't know if he's decided he doesn't want to do that or he doesn't have time to do that. But I'd love to see somebody create a just OMFL stats page, right, or like uh, Kuiper page, or what, like anything that you want to add. Like if you want to do a Kuiper page that talks about rookies, if you want to do or Kuiper Twitter that talks about rookies, if you want to do a stats Twitter that just puts out random stats every couple of days, like those things would just be stupid awesome. I'd love to see them. But yeah, get that content out there, man. We're making it easier and easier for you guys to participate in the incentive program. We did bump up the incentive awards, and so it's a little harder to receive some of them. At the same time, we've given you more and more options for you guys to do it. People are starting to post a lot more of the recap wizards, which I love. It just doesn't take a lot, and if you put a lot out, like if you do a video, if you put out like a really nice written article, you get more points for that stuff. So lots of really good stuff. Dwayne Dawson, man, we've been going at it, I think almost 2 hours, man. Let's see, what are we at? We are at, 1 hour and 17 minutes. So we've been going at it for almost an hour and a half here. So it's been a nice, good, long show. I think we had 5 or 6 people on the stream live at one time, and then I know a ton of people will watch this after we get it posted. So we'll get this all out there and get it done for you so that you can watch it. And I will spit out a game of the week here as soon as this is done and get that out to you as well. So, Dawson, Dwayne, thank you so much, man. You guys are my guys. Thanks for being on the show. Maniac, we miss you, bro. We're praying for your family. We're praying for mom. We're here to support you. You hang in there with us. We'll hang in there with you. We'll make sure that we get you all the support that we can possibly get you. OMFL2, good luck. Support Chaotic. Board, support Chaotic. Let's keep that league rolling. And Maniac created that out of his own ambition, and it really has been a great addition to our community and really helped out the OMFL. It has kept us guys that are ready to move up ASAP. It's just been a great addition. The coach mode, which was my baby several Maddens ago, Chaotic has done a great job, and I'm excited. Priest has always been super active, maybe a little too active. He's in like every single community here in the community, so I hope that the coach mode keeps rolling. I'm excited that he's getting an opportunity to be a leader here, and just lots and lots of good things. The NASCAR thing has taken off, and people are super excited. And then later today, just a little plug for the GFW. Our second pay-per-view for this WWE game is coming out, and it will be our best show ever. Lots of fun stuff. So look, guys, just give us a watch. Just watch the show. You might like it. If it's not your cup of tea, then okay, no problem. Just give it a shot, though. You might just enjoy being a fan, right? We just want fans who don't want to play it, who don't want to get the game, who don't want to learn it, right? Just be a fan, watch the stuff, and if you get the itch and you want to come play, let me know, and we'll get you in there. We're growing. We're almost got a roster large enough for 2 shows now. We've had so many new people come and join us, so lots of fun things happening in the community. And the OMFL is going to be in the playoffs before we know it. We're going to get back to our regular weekend schedule now that I'm back home and back rolling, and lots of fun stuff that's going on. So for Dwayne, for Dawson, for all the leadership here in the OMFL, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys around the corner. Peace.
Have a good day. Have a good day.